Okay, so hello everybody. Hey, Chelsea says she's from Western North Carolina. Sometimes, not always.
Sometimes.
Just,
That's right.
just depends. We've got people from all over the world here. 67 countries that are people from using Fictionary and in the Fictionary community. It's crazy. It's lovely. So, if you're here today, you are interested in 5 things to know before you publish. So, Chelsea is coming with a ton of expertise on this, and it's why we love having her back to the community. She's works with Lulu, but she's their education and community manager. Doesn't that sound a lot like Lucy Cook in our community? Oh, that's kind of her title. She also hosts a Lulu YouTube series, so very, very visible. The Lulu University and monthly webinars. So Chelsea's kind of a busy person, but she's busy with print on demand technology, building author brands, direct sales, marketing, all kinds of stuff all around authors who want to self-publish. She plays disc golf with her husband, and she does all of her work with her cat Batman at her feet, who we see in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen with the lovely sunglasses on, making the cat look like Batman. So, Lulu. No, Chelsea. I'll call you Chelsea, not Lulu or Batman. Chelsea, over to you.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, Christina. You have such wonderful energy, and this community is so kind and friendly. So it makes it a great place to be. So my screen is shared. I am going to minimize the chat. So I have given Christina the green light to interrupt me at any point if you have any questions, if I'm talking too fast. But also you can watch the replay on half speed. That can work as well. So yes, I'm here to talk about 5 things to know before you publish, or what a new author should know before self-publishing. I've been at Lulu for about 7 years now, so I've seen a lot of people come through the publishing process, and there are things that I've noticed, some patterns that kind of get ignored, or things that kind of come out with people who get through the publishing process and then have to go back through it, or things that they wish they would have paid more attention to. So I hope to share this and spare you that experience. All right, so before we get started, a little bit about Lulu. We've been around since 2002. Our platform is free to use. We have printed millions of books and paid out hundreds of millions of dollars in author revenue. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Lulu in just a minute. But before that, I always like to share that we are a B Corp. So I'm very proud that Lulu is B Corp certified. If you are not familiar, B Corps are for-profit companies certified by the nonprofit B Lab to meet standards of social and environmental performance, accountability, and transparency. If you have any summer birthdays, wishes, anniversaries that you're celebrating coming in the coming months, look up the B Corp community. It's a great place to spend your dollars and help support this planet we all share. All right, so as Christina said, I am Chelsea Bennett. This is my cat, Batman. He is not going to make an appearance today. He doesn't work on Tuesdays or any other day that I have been able to find, to be honest. But he's a great shoulder animal, I guess. He's a great little accessory. All right, so what does Lulu do? I gave a presentation a couple weeks ago at an event called InkersCon. If you were there, let me know in the chat. But I went through the whole presentation and I did not say what Lulu did. I just kind of went over the slide that I just went over of like, oh, we've been around since 2002, blah, blah, blah. Went through the presentation, and at the end, they were like, cool, cool. What is Lulu? And I thought, wow, what a good marketer I am that I didn't even include this information. So I will share a little bit about what we do just to let you know, again, why I'm talking to you about publishing and why I may have a little bit of information to share. So at Lulu, we do books. We do print books and we do ebooks as well. But we run the gamut with the genres and types of books that we print. I love to share this slide to just kind of give you an idea of what we publish and what we print. So on this slide, we have coloring books. Big Bellied Mermaids has been a favorite of mine since I came to Lulu. So that's a coloring book. We've got children's books, magazines, calendars, photo books. You see the self-care planner. So a lot of low and no content projects as well. So if that's something you're interested in and Amazon is not really loving what you're creating right now, you can come to Lulu and we'll be happy to help you publish. We do comic books, cookbooks, novels, and nonfiction as well. So we really run the gamut in what we are able to create and what we can help you create. a little bit more about the specifics is that we are here to help you publish, print, and prosper. It's free to publish on Lulu. We don't have any uploads or revision fees. And Christine and I were chatting about this before we went live. So this can mean that you published a book you may have previously published with Lulu or with someone else, but maybe you notice that there's something you could have done a little bit better. Maybe there's a spelling error, grammatical error. Maybe you don't love that cover anymore. You can change all of those things and re-upload to Lulu without paying any fees to do that. So if you have a book out there and you feel like a little bit of finesse may help it sell better or help you reach your target audience, then Lulu is a great place to workshop that and get it to where it needs to be. We have a ton of free resources on our blog and social media accounts. You can find us on all the things at lulu.com. We just launched a podcast at the end of last year, Publish and Prosper. We have 3,000 possible format, color, and size variations, paperback, coil-bound hardcover, all the things, built-in cover tool, hire a pro page if you need professional help. Our order import tool, that is just a one-stop shop for you if you're taking pre-orders or doing a Kickstarter. You can upload a CSV file of all your backers, of all your pre-orders, and place all those orders at one time so it can make fulfilling those projects very easy. We have a global print network. So we have printers in the US, Canada, Australia, France, the UK, and we're constantly growing that so you can get your book where your readers are. And then we have multiple ways to sell through the Lulu bookstore, global distribution through Amazon, Ingram, and Barnes & Noble, and what we call Lulu Direct. I will also say I would be remiss if I did not mention this handsome man that's on this slide. This is Ruben the Bulldog, and every year his human makes calendars with us to raise money for Bullies to the Rescue or other nonprofits. So check him out if you need a little bit of a dopamine hit during your day. All right, so things that I noticed authors or some authors not getting right their first time publishing or something that they may miss. When I say goals is number one, it may seem kind of like woo-woo, but I think it's really important to think, why are you writing this book? This not only can help you drag to your desk or your laptop for the 100th time to bang out a sentence or try to, but it can also help you make the right decisions for your marketing spend, your budget, your timeline, having really constructive conversations with the folks that you use to help you publish your book. So figuring out really in the beginning, as early as you can, of why are you doing this can really help some of the other answers be much easier to get to as the process goes along. So some of your goals or some of your reasons to write a book, some of the usual suspects we see are to make money, to entertain, raise awareness, something that's close to your heart, get new clients, share information, build credibility, establish yourself as a thought leader, boost your backlist sales. So again, if you are someone who's written several books, then you may be writing just to continue getting those on the radar. I think that we've heard that the third book is typically when authors start to see something take off and really get that momentum going, which can boost your backlist. So that can be a great reason as well. And then last but not least, just to prove that you can. And again, this list is not exhaustive, but I think just writing a book, everybody that I meet, and I'm sure you can agree to this or have had this experience as you're writing something and you tell someone, oh, I'm writing a book. A lot of times they'll say, I would love to write a book, but I can never do that. Or everyone has a story that they want to tell, but very few people actually see that through to completion. So just saying, I want to just say that I did it, I just want to get started, then that is fine as well. But as I mentioned, your why being, I just want to say that I can do it. I want to share this with my friends and family. That's going to look very different when you kind of get to your publishing timeline and your budget considerations. Then I need to make money off of this. I need to get new clients. I need to establish myself as an authority or a thought leader. These things can really make a drastic impact on those decisions you're going to make along the way. So it's very important to just take some time and sort this out in the beginning. All right, so this is a goal setting framework. You may have heard of the SMART method before. Then I heard of the SMARTer method, which I think is more complete. But then I added another A, so now it's the SMARTer method. But I think it makes sense if you'll go along with me here. So first is specific. So as you're setting out your goals, thinking, is this a specific goal? I mean, selling books is a good goal. If you want to sell books, that's great. But selling one book versus selling 100 is going to feel very different. Selling 10 versus 1,000 will feel very different. So make sure that your goals that you're setting are specific, measurable. Of course, you need to know, are you hitting your goals or not? You don't want to have a vague, good feeling that you're doing a good job. You want to be able to measure it and look at the results. Is it attainable? So a lot of people, when they set out, have very lofty goals, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but if you're just starting with publishing, with self-publishing, then looking at your goals, you want to make sure they're attainable so you can achieve them and then get that momentum along the way to keep going. The second A that I added is accountability. It is so valuable to have someone kind of holding your feet to the fire. So as you are thinking about writing a book, telling people, or a lot of nonfiction authors, they kind of call this working in public. So you're saying, hey, I'm going to write this book. Here's when it's going to be ready, so that you have people kind of keeping you on track along the way. If that sounds terrible to you, which is understandable, just having one friend or family member that you're saying, hey, I want to do this. This is important to me. Here is what I'm setting as my timeline. Can you help me stay on track? So I think accountability can also play a huge role in goal setting and achieving those goals. Is it relevant? Does it make sense to the project at hand? Time-based. So again, writing a book is on your own timeline. You can decide however long you want to take to write that book. We've had people write books in 3 months, 6 months. I've seen someone work on a book for 10 years. You know what is right for you and what's going to make sense for you. But when you're working on your goals, it's probably helpful to tie it or create a time frame around it to help you measure. And then evaluate. So looking at all of your goals and your efforts, are they getting you closer to your end goal? And if not, readjust and make some changes so that you can keep on track and get there. All right, so once you have your goals set out and you know what you want to achieve through writing this book, think about your audience. This is so important. Finding your audience and thinking about your audience and doing research on them as early as possible is something that I think a lot of authors don't do. We have talked to so many authors at so many different events or speaking engagements that I get a chance to be a part of. And people come up to me with their book in hand. They're like, how do I sell this? Or who is this for? How do I market this? I'm like, well, you don't really want to be asking yourself that question when you have your book in hand. You want to be thinking through these things as you're writing so you can start connecting with these communities and get them involved in your writing process. So who is your book for? You want to get to know your audience. You can pretend like these very judgmental looking llamas are your audience, but you want to get to know them. You want to know who is your ideal reader, who will get the most out of your book. This is such an important question to ask, because as you go through and think about marketing and how you'll market your book, and pitching yourself can be very uncomfortable for a lot of people. But when you know who's going to get the most out of your book and you know who's going to benefit from reading it, then you're not, selling isn't scary because you know you're offering them something of value. So you want to know where these folks are and where they get their news and their information. What websites do they frequent? What social media channels are they most active on? If you're just starting out building your author platform, I would not recommend going and creating a social media account for every single one out there. Unless you just love that and it appeals to you, then go for it. But for most people, it can be very draining to think about how to approach that. So by doing this audience research in the beginning, you'll find out my audience is really active on Twitter. No, I guess they wouldn't be. It's X now. So my audience is very active on X, or they're really on Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is. And then you can decide to invest your time there rather than kind of spraying and praying all over all of these social media platforms and hoping that something sticks. So if you're unsure who your book is for, and you're kind of going through these questions and thinking, I don't really know who my ideal reader is, this positioning statement, I think, is really helpful. So my book will help audience to benefit by method. So audience, benefit, and method are the spaces that you want to fill out with your specifics. So you want to get really clear on who is your book for and how will it benefit that audience. So if your book is just for entertainment, how are you entertaining them? Is it they're going to go through a sci-fi experience they've never had before? Is it fans of Stephen King will also really like this? So whatever it is, get really clear on exactly the benefit they're going to get from your book. And then the method, the way that you will deliver that. Is it because you're building a world they've never seen before? Is it because you're giving them a quick escape into a new realm that they haven't been a part of? Is it because you're introducing them to characters that are really different than what they've seen in that genre? So understanding how you're delivering it, that can help you get really clear on exactly who you need to reach. Your target audience will also help you choose appropriate buy-sat categories and price point. So getting to know your audience and understanding what comp titles they like, how you're similar. And also, I know that AI is very hotly contested right now, but Coming up with comp titles, with bylines and things like this can be really helpful in your audience research, or even plugging these things in can help you really hone in on who your audience is. By site categories and price point. By site categories help bookstores categorize your book and online retailers. And then your price point. So being able to understand how you fit in your genre, that'll help you understand what price points your audience is used to seeing and what they're comfortable paying. And obviously, you don't want to be too high, you don't want to be too low. You want to be able to hit right where other books similar to yours are hitting so that people can expect and understand and afford the book that you're selling. All right, and last but not least, I added this point right before we started because I was just thinking, attending events, joining communities, obviously you know how helpful and supportive the Fictionary community is, but going out into events, not only to meet your target audience, but to meet other authors in your genre. Like I mentioned, I was just at InkersCon. A huge part of the marketing strategy for these authors at InkersCon is connecting with similar authors, doing newsletter swaps, or even creating an ebook with, maybe you have 5 authors who write similar content and doing one chapter from each author of a different book that they've written. I thought that was such a great marketing tool. And again, can help you reach a wider audience. So as you're doing your audience research, don't just think of your readers, but also think of other authors that are similar to you so you can network and build those relationships, and may turn into a mentorship or just a partnership that you can use to help reach a wider readership and then learn things along the way. Okay, so next is your publishing timeline. So I like to think of a work back plan when I think about doing a publishing timeline. I think sometimes it can be hard to just start at like day one and then kind of figure out your calendar from there. I think it is usually kind of more helpful if you know, I want to publish this book in 6 months. I know that I want to set my launch date. So then planning your launch date and then creating a work back plan from there, I think might be more helpful to you. But again, this is just a recommendation. But what I really wanted to highlight here is giving yourself enough time. We see so many authors that you take so long to write the book, you're invested in it, you're spending so much time to really put it together and craft this world, create these characters, develop this storyline. And then when you're done with it and you've got through the edits, you just want to race through to the finish line and get that book in hand. And I understand that, and it is so exciting. But understanding in the beginning that if you are using print on demand, it's going to take 3 to 5 business days to print a book, and then shipping on top of that. And then once you get it, you have to review the proof copy, and you need to be communicating with your readers throughout. So thinking about all those things before you kind of decide, all right, I just need to write this thing and get it published. Take time to really think about take time to give yourself enough time to do well and to make the best book that you can. So once you have a launch date, creating a work back plan, as I said, I think is a good way to approach creating your timeline. But this can also really help you guide your conversations with your publishing team. So I'll talk about that next. But thinking about what your timeline is when you start talking to editors or designers or anyone else you may be working with to help you bring your book to fruition, being able to say, here's my launch date. So I need to hit these key milestones in this timeline to keep that promise to my readers. So again, that can help you have those really constructive conversations with other people that you're working with. I also like to tell people to give yourself at least 3 weeks to order, receive, and edit your proof copy. Honestly, you probably want to depending on how fast you work and how committed to this you are, you can't get it done in 3 weeks. You may want more time for the reviewing and edits and all of that. But I like to tell people, if you're ordering your book, give yourself 2 weeks to receive it. It should get there before that, but especially if you're around the holidays or if it's a very busy time for the printers, it can take that full 5 days to print and then shipping on top of that. We all know that shipping can be hit or miss at different times during the year. So think about these things. If you're planning a holiday launch, take that into consideration and give yourself extra time so you're not scrambling. And then again, depending on how you're feeling about your book and how much time it takes you to revise and edit things, then add on to that 2 weeks so you have plenty of time to really spend time with that proof copy and make sure that everything is perfect when you go to publish and make it available for sale. So as I said, add more time if you're planning to launch around the holidays. And as you're thinking about your work back plan and what to include in it, here are a few things that I think are important. So of course, editing, I cannot stress this enough. Even if you have the best cover designer and the best story in the world, there are readers who will see a misspelling I mean, that you have one shot. And I mean, honestly, every book, whether it's a bestseller on the New York Times list or something that was self-published or, anything in between, there's going to be a spelling or grammatical error 9 times out of 10. I read quite a bit and I always notice that there's something, that's kind of off usually. But if there, one thing, I'll look past that. Even two, fine. But if I am constantly being taken out of the story because of spelling errors or grammatical errors, then I start to think, is this worth my time? This person didn't invest in it, so why am I? So really taking time to edit your work. There are obviously several different editors that you can use or several different kinds of editing, but you'll know what's right for your story and do a little bit of research if you're unsure. So make sure that that has a decent chunk allocated toward it for your timeline. Formatting is another huge thing, whether you're hiring help or doing it yourself. Getting those proof copies, it may look different to you when you get it in print than it did on the screen. So giving yourself time to work through that and get something really nice. Cover design, obviously a huge part of it. And cover design is another great way for you to really start engaging with your audience. So once you've done your audience research and you know who your book is for, then using your cover to promote your book and telling people, hey, I'm at the cover design step. Which ones do you like? Let me know your feedback. And that gets people really involved and really invested in the process and then excited to buy the book at the end when they think, oh, hey, she chose the cover or he chose the cover that I picked. I love that. And I'm going to buy one. Or you can just kind of delight everyone and make several different covers with the power of print on demand. You can do that. Ordering a proof copy, I've harped on this. I talk about this all the time, but very, very important. Reviewing and editing the proof copy, also very, very important. So end-to-end testing, I added this in for direct sales. So I know this talk isn't specifically about direct sales, but Lulu offers direct sales. There are a lot of folks who are getting more and more interested in this. Direct sales just means you are selling your books directly to your audience. So you can do this a handful of ways. You can order books in bulk and hand fulfill them through your website and do really fun things like sign copies or including swag and bookmarks or things like that. You can do something a little bit more integrated, like using something like Lulu Direct, where we integrate into your website with Shopify, WooCommerce for WordPress or Wix. And then as orders come through your website, they're sent to Lulu to print and fulfill. And that is all automated. So your orders will go to your readers. And you can also white label this so no one has to know that you are using Lulu. It can look like it's coming from your own imprint. However, if you do anything like that, if you're selling through your own website, you want to do end-to-end testing. And again, this is something while we stress so much giving yourself enough time, because you want to go through landing on your homepage, going to your sales page, checking out, getting that book in the mail, and making sure it's a really smooth process. And then asking friends and family to do it as well so you can identify any pain points, any friction, and eliminate that. Help your readers help you. Make it easy to buy your books. We see this all the time with authors as they get really excited and they want to put their books up for sale. And then it's just hard to find their sale page, or they aren't linking to where to buy the books in their bio or their social media accounts. So help your readers help you and make it easy to buy your books. Beta readers are another great thing that you may want to include on your publishing timeline, getting some folks to read and help you understand what may be confusing or what may be problematic about what you're writing. Communicating with your launch team. So if you are working with a launch team, and again, this goes back to your goals. So if you said, hey, this is really just a book for me that I want to share with my family, then you probably don't need a launch team to get your mom to read your book. Probably not. So again, getting clear on those things can also help you with your publishing timeline and figuring out where you need to spend your time and resources. So communicating with your launch team, if you're using one, and getting really clear on what those dates are, when are they going to send out information about it, where are they buying the book, will they review it, all that good stuff. Starting an email campaign. Email marketing is so valuable to any sales campaign, regardless of if it's books or anything else you're selling. Email is a wonderful line of communication with your audience, and it can really help you build those relationships that allow you to have a sustainable author career instead of a one-time transaction. So starting an email campaign to let people know your book is coming. And then of course, a social campaign as well, depending on what platform your audience is active on, starting to run ads or just getting more consistent with your post, or sharing more about your book, or asking folks in your similar genre or sharing a similar audience to share about your book. So those are all things that you may want to include on your work back plan. All right, another thing that I wanted to add here was just trim size, formatting, and ISBNs. So I put this in the publishing timeline, but it might fit somewhere else, but I just think it's important to cover. So trim size can be really important in figuring out how you want to sell and distribute your book, because not all sales channels can make all trim sizes. So I wanted to put this here because for Lulu specifically, not all of our trim sizes are what we call distribution eligible. So that means eligible to distribute through Amazon, Ingram, and Barnes & Noble. One of our standout product sets is a coil-bound workbook or notebook. You can use that binding type if it makes sense to you, but Amazon doesn't make that. So if you, again, have a goal of getting your book on Amazon or hitting an Amazon bestseller list, make sure that the format or trim size you are choosing, and again, for Lulu specifically, this will be a green globe with a green book on it that indicates distro eligible. So make sure that as you are preparing your files, as you're getting to that editing and formatting phase, your book is a trim size that can go through distribution if that is important to you. So you want to format your book with the appropriate trim size specifications so you can upload easily. This is another thing that we see a lot of newer authors struggle with or kind of run into, because maybe you're just in Microsoft Word writing your book and then you finish it, it's edited, it's great, and you go to export that PDF and upload it, but that page is an 8.5 by 11 and you want your book to be a 6 by 9. So that's going to cause a discrepancy, and that'll be an issue for you when you're going through the publishing process. So make sure that when you have your trim size, as you're working with your formatter, or if you're formatting it yourself as you're writing the book, you're setting the right page size just to make things easier in the publishing process.
Chelsea?
Yes.
On the trim size, because most people here are fiction writers, do you
Yes.
have a recommended what sells best for a fiction, a novel, which is fiction, of course?
Right. Well, I mean, 6 by 9 is just a classic trade paperback. A 5 by 8 is really becoming popular. We also just released a novella size. A lot of people are gravitating towards that. But if you're doing a hardcover, those are usually a little bit larger. So I always recommend to people, again, to go look at books that are similar to yours. You may want to go a size smaller or a size larger just to stand out. Or you may see that there are genre recommendations or genre expectations that kind of push you towards a different trim size. But I would also recommend, if you go to lulu.com/pricing, you can see all of our trim sizes and formats. And so you can play around. Price point might also be a consideration for you. So if you really are looking for a certain retail price, you can go into our pricing calculator, pick a couple different trim sizes, and see where that puts you for price point and manufacturing costs. And that may also help guide your decision. So like so many things, there's not a hard and fast rule, but looking at genre expectations and your comp titles and things like that can help you get there.
Right. Thank you.
Sure. Also, if you go to lulu.com/pricing, I always like to push people to this, well, not push, recommend that you go to this page, because it's a really good place to just see what all we offer. And then you can get templates as well. So if you know you want to do a larger format or an 8.5 by 11 or something like that, 6 by 9, whatever the format is that you want to choose, you can download interior file and cover file templates and then send those to your designer or your formatter to make sure everything will be to spec when you go to upload. So a quick note on ISBNs. Lulu offers free ISBNs, or you can bring your own. So just one thing to consider is if you use a Lulu ISBN, it will say that Lulu is the publisher. That may or may not matter to you. That'll really be if someone Googles it. That's really the only way they would see that information. However, if you do want to put in your own publishing imprint, you can bring your own ISBNs to our platform as well. Please make sure that your metadata is consistent throughout the publishing process. We get, I don't want to say daily, but weekly for sure, people who come to Lulu who their books were rejected from global distribution or retail distribution, or they're not getting published appropriately, or they're having issues because their metadata is not consistent. And even if you have one extra space in the title, if you capitalize, the word "the" in one spelling and then somewhere else you don't, these things create problems for you down the line. So I listed out everything that the metadata includes here, just so you're aware. We recommend that as you are going through and starting the publication process, write down every single one of these and keep it somewhere handy so it is consistent throughout. Because if you go through, for Lulu, if you go through global distribution, it can take 4 to 6 weeks for your book to be available on Amazon or listed on these retail channels. So if you go through, you publish it, and then you're taking that long to see it come up, and then you get a rejection, you have to go through all that again, it can really put a damper on your timeline and really push things back. So it is just so disheartening to just see you put an extra period somewhere, or a little bit, like just the slightest change will cause the system to kick this back. And it's not just us, it's Amazon, it's these other retailers as well. It has to be consistent. So just there's my PSA. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk about how important metadata is to keep consistent. Also, this is what a lot of authors are like, what? Metadata, it's so important. It is very important. So keep that in mind. All right, next is budget. How much do you have to spend? So even if you are just buying one copy for yourself, that will cost you money. At Lulu, we only charge for buying print copies of your book, but you still want to think about what that will look like for you. So again, the Lulu pricing calculator is a great place to start. So if you're in that phase of just doing your research, start there. And then you can just kind of compare us with some other folks in this space and just see, what you like, what you don't like, order a proof copy, and see if the quality is what the budget is. And what services do you need to bring your book to life? So we call this your publishing team. But when you outline your budget before publishing, you can allocate appropriately for products and services that you will need. So every project can be different. And, as Christina just asked about trim sizes, the good thing about publishing is everything can be whatever you want. There's dealer's choice. But the bad thing it can be whatever you want. So that's why I like to suggest how to spend a lot of time doing your audience research and spend a lot of time looking at comp titles or similar books in your genre so you can figure out where to fall, when it comes to things like this. So expenses are going to vary from project to project, but a few of the usual suspects are editing, proofreading, cover design, manufacturing costs, publishing fees. If you are working with a hybrid publisher, or working with a publisher who may charge for things like revisions or title uploads, things like that, those are all things to consider. And again, knowing your budget is going to help you have those conversations with the folks that you're hiring, because you'll know, hey, here's my budget. If that person is way out of it, then that's not going to be a good fit for you. So being able to come to the table with this information can really help you get the most out of their time and your time as well. All right, so your publishing team, talked about this quite a bit. Let's get into it. So building your publishing team, when I first started working in self-publishing, I really thought that self-publishing meant going it alone. And I've realized, that self-publishing, yes, because you're publishing yourself, but you're not editing it and designing it and formatting it yourself unless, you want to. Again, you can if you want. But what I've noticed at Lulu is that all the books that are really successful have a team behind them. And it doesn't have to be a ton of people, but you need to just evaluate where you are with your project and what you need to get to the next step. So just take a minute to be honest about the skill set that you have and what is worth your time and what's worth your money. So what should you hire people for and what do you want to take on your own? And then define your ideal candidate to fill that role, and then research to find the right person for the job. And don't be afraid to ask for samples and specifics. I mean, most publishing service providers will have reviews readily available. We'll have samples that you can look at or testimonials. And also a community like Fictionary is a great place to ask, your peers, who have you used and who really knows this genre and can help me create a great book. Once you find who you want to work on your project, communicate your budget, your timeline, and any other pertinent info to the people helping you with the project. Be clear on the best way of communicating throughout the project. So this is something that people don't really think of, but in those first conversations, once you decide, hey, we're going to do this, it's me and you, we're going to finish this book together, say, I really like it if you could just text me, that's the best way to communicate. I never check my email, or vice versa. Email's the best way, or let's just hop on a call. We can do a Zoom, whatever it is. Just make sure that you're really outlining these things in the beginning so that it can be a really productive partnership throughout. And then, of course, don't set it and forget it. You want to check in regularly. I mean, especially a lot of these folks that you may be working with have other clients. And so you just want to make sure that you are top of mind. I mean, not in an annoying way, but the squeaky wheel, et cetera, et cetera. So when you're working with someone, just be aware of advocating for yourself. And you want to be a part of the ideation and creation process. And just as like an aside or a pro tip, Whether you're hiring an editor, a formatter, or a cover designer, familiarize yourself on exactly what you're looking for. Again, going back to genre expectations, what does the genre or what does the cover typically look for your genre? And make sure that the cover designer knows that. What does the interior format look like in some of your comp titles? Make sure they're aware of those things and be proactive in explaining what you're looking for so you can have the best product possible at the end. Okay, so bonus. How will you sell your book? So again, this can be very important to think about in the early stages of planning your book or planning the publishing process, because like I said earlier, your ISBN, your trim size, these things can play into where you can sell your book. So I said trim sizes is important because not every retailer can manufacture every trim size, but also ISBN. So on this slide, I'll talk about, be where your readers are. This dog salesman agrees with me, but if you are selling through your own website, you don't need an ISBN. If you're selling through the lulu.com bookstore, you don't need an ISBN. If you're selling through a retail distributor, you have to have one. So understanding where you're going to sell your book can also help kind of plan those and make those decisions that'll help you reach your audience and be in the right place. The most important thing to think about with distribution is it does not have to be an either or choice. So you can be wherever your readers are. I mean, this is called going wide. A lot of people refer to it that way, but you want to consider where you'd like to sell your book so that you can determine the specs if an ISBN is necessary, as I mentioned. And then review your audience research to see where people prefer to purchase your books. So obviously, a lot of folks are trained to just go to Amazon to buy books, and that's fine. Put your book on Amazon. But there's also a growing group of readers that want to support you directly as an author, as the creator. For me, when I find an artist specifically that I really like, I want to support them directly because I know that they're going to get more money, which will help them make more of the art that I love. So if you can communicate to your readers, hey, my book is everywhere. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it on Barnes & Noble. You can buy it wherever. But if you buy it from me directly through my own website, or if you come to this event and buy my book from me in person, that will give me more money per sale. That'll help my business. That'll help me create something sustainable so I can keep writing the content that you love. So communicating that with your audience can be really helpful in really, again, building that sustainable author platform that can help you writing for years to come. Also, connect with your local bookstores about carrying your book and hosting a signing. So, book signings, I know they're kind of quintessential to the book publishing process, but that doesn't mean that they're super lucrative. So thinking about doing a book signing, is it really worth your time? Is it worth the bookstore's time? Having a bookstore carry your book may be better than asking them if you can do a signing. They may be willing to do one or the other. Either way, knowing your audience and knowing where they're going to turn up, if they're going to turn up, can be really helpful in convincing the bookstore to carry your book. But hopefully you've been a good patron of them, and so they want to return the favor and help you as well. But I think my biggest advice to anyone who wants to get into bookstores, usually bookstores buy from Ingram's catalog. So that if we do that through global distribution at Lulu. So again, need to get a global distribution eligible trim size and an ISBN. But also just having those conversations and really understanding, what is that bookstore? Is there a niche? Do they have a target audience? How are you helping them reach their goals? And so it's not just, hey, will you sell my book? That would be so great, right? Making sure that they understand that you know their audience and you're trying to help them and you know how your book will help them can be very, very helpful in that process. Also, order books in bulk to always have a few on hand. Any seasoned author will tell you that this is very important. You always want to have a copy of your book almost within arm's reach. You never know who you're going to run into and what opportunities you might have to share your book with someone. So also a good note there. And then include a direct sales option to connect with readers. So again, it can be as involved as plugging into Lulu's API, or if you have Shopify, WooCommerce for WordPress, or Wix, then you can plug in with our free app or integration, and then you can sell your books directly through there. But this just gives you more of an opportunity to connect with your readers, control your data. When you sell direct, you can see who is buying your books. So if you're selling through, a third party, you can see that you made a sale, and that is very exciting, but you can't see who's buying your books. So you're kind of leaving a lot on the table in regards to your marketing efforts and really building that audience. So including a direct sales option is always a good way to go there. All right, and last but not least, I think this is almost my last slide, and then I would love to open it up for questions. When you are selling direct, if you'd like to use Lulu, we call it Lulu Direct. You sell your books through your own website. You keep 100% of your profit, so you're cutting out the middleman. You're not paying distribution fees. You can also collect customer data, as I said. So you're getting the names and email addresses of who is buying your books. You're able to remarket to them, build out your email list, and again, just start building that long-term relationship rather than a one-time transaction. We automate the print and fulfillment. So again, orders come through your website. They're sent to Lulu to print and fulfill. We don't get your customer data. It stays with you. We just see the order come through and ship it out. You can also white label this. So if you have your own imprint that you would like to sell your books through, when your reader gets your book, it will have your publishing imprint or your brand on the packing slip, not Lulu's. We have a global print network, so we can get your books wherever your readers are. This also helps us kind of negate some of the shipping expenses and the ship time since we're shipping globally. So once a book is sold, we will route it to the printer closest to the delivery address whenever possible. You get paid faster. So if you are familiar with selling through a third party, then you know payment comes maybe 30, 60, 90 days after the sale. Making money is awesome. Making money faster is even more awesome. I was going to say awesomer, but I'll try to be a little bit more grammatically correct. More awesome. So getting your money faster can obviously help you make marketing decisions. It can help you be more agile with your marketing efforts when you are getting paid and you know that you're going to get money within 24 to 48 hours rather than 3 months. Then you can say, okay, these Facebook ads are doing really well. Let me go ahead and double down on those. I know I see this money coming in tomorrow or the next day. So it can kind of help you be more proactive in your marketing and really kind of strike when the iron is hot. And again, we integrate with Wix, WooCommerce. So if you have a WordPress site, WooCommerce is the kind of plays the best. It's the best e-commerce integration we've seen for WordPress. And then Shopify, and we have our print API as well. All right, just some free resources, if you will, to get started. At lulu.com, you can use the code Fictionary10 for 10% off print orders. So I have set this up for the next couple months. So if you do want to try out our print quality, if you want to just kind of go and play around and just see if you like the platform, then I invite you to do so. Creating an account is free. We also have free templates. So if you just wanted to create a notebook and just see how the process goes, you can download free interior files, create a cover using our cover designer, which is built into our tool, and then publish and print and order that, and then use this code to get 10% off. Or if you have other titles you want to buy or browse our bookstore, please do. So Lulu University, that is our YouTube series. The Start Here playlist is a great primer for just things to know about Lulu, things to know about print on demand, and just some information that we think that is helpful for new authors or people that are new to publishing with Lulu to kind of get all your ducks in a row before you hit publish. We also have a great blog. You can find self-publishing basics for new authors there. And our podcast that I mentioned, Publish and Prosper Podcast. I don't do that podcast, so if this has been enough of me for you, Publish and Prosper Podcast has some great information there. Getting your book design right is a great place to start if you're in that phase. And then you can follow us everywhere at lulu.com. We have a community for direct sales as well. So if you scan this QR code, I think my email address is on the next slide. So we have a circle community. I hope to model it on the Fictionary model because Christina, what you built over there is so fantastic. But we are kicking this off and starting our own. If you are interested in connecting with folks about direct sales or have any questions about that, then I invite you to join. And that's my time. I am done now. So it looks like we have plenty of time for questions if you have any. I am Chelsea Bennett. My email address is cbennett@lulu.com. Please reach out to me for any questions that you have that if I can't get to them today.
Whew, Chelsea, that was fantastic. As usual, just a plethora of information. Yay. We are recording this, so we'll get it up and in the community. One, I want to thank you for the discount. And because it will be there for a few months, we'll put it up in our discount section of the community.
Great.
So that people can see it and refer to it. Can we get a show, type in the chat, anyone who's going to self-publish in the next 2, 3, 4 months? Who's planning on doing that? Anybody?
Don't be shy.
Or nobody wants to tell us yet?
This is not contractually obligated. So if you say you're
No,
going to publish, that's
it's the
okay.
oh yes, there we go, Fallon. Thank you, Carolyn Fallon. Okay, eclipse me, but maybe next year. Next year's good. Awesome. Have to finish revising first. Good, good, good. Fantastic. Roland has a question and I've lost it. Dirt, dirt, dirt. It went by too fast. Oh yeah. Does Lulu only charge for the distribution? Oh, I am, Carolyn. Yes.
Yes. So we don't charge for distribution if you're doing print books. If you do print books, you just submit it through global distribution. That's free. At Lulu, you only pay when you want to buy print copies of your books. So that's the only time you will pay anything. If you are doing ebooks, we do have a $4.99 distribution fee for ebooks, but that's only a one-time fee, so that's all you would pay there.
Fantastic. All right. So everybody who's here, who's already self-published something in the last year, 2, 3, who are past book 1 on their. Oh, Fallon. Okay. Backward and forward. Okay. He's doing ebooks.
Nice.
Nice. I want to talk about your chart a little bit about selling to bookstores. So when I was before Fictionary and I was an author at the time, I sold a lot of print copies of my books. And after I'd sold thousands of them, my publisher asked me, like, what the heck are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm going to non-bookstores. And so I wrote a book, it's published, called How to Sell Books to Non-Bookstores. And basically, I went around to everybody in my area. So whatever local meant. So at the time it was small town BC, but then it was other towns in BC because from there, and then I came back to my cottage in Kingston. I'm like, well, I'm local to here. I can do it here too. And really worked for me to sell books to drugstores, grocery stores, the dollar store locally one, and I'm like, but my book is $20 or whatever it was at the time. I'm like, yep, we know, but we want it in here, and they even put it up at Christmas, sitting on a Santa Claus, and like totally awesome because I was local, and so it took a bit of work, but I sold a lot of print copies of my book, and so many that last week Linda O'Donnell happened to say to me, "Hey, I was out. I forget where you said you were, and one of your books is there signed." I'm like, oh, that had to be somebody out probably skiing when I was still living out in BC and bought a signed copy from one of those events. But there's so many inventive ways now that you can self-publish and sell your print books. And I know some authors don't do print books because they're not really sure how they're going to sell, but I found it really helpful. And the other thing I did was any like doctors, lawyers, people who tend to give away Christmas gifts to a whole bunch of people that they don't really know, but there's a business connection. They'll buy 100 of your books at a time, and that's what they're giving away in their office that year for Christmas. And so any connection, my neighbors, I'm like, you work in a law firm, right? What are you doing for your staff for Christmas? How about you? Oh, look, and I have them right here. So your point of have a ton of books in your house, I'm like, well, here's your 100. Thank you. I'll just take care. So you can really have fun with it, and people get to know you in your area of where you live, that, oh, you're that author person. And I don't know, I just think it's a really great way to push. So I always try and, for fiction in particular, I think it's really important to have a print book.
Yeah. And I would also say, I think a lot of readers want, the ebooks for sure. That's obviously hugely popular, but having that print product or having a special edition where you've done something a little bit extra, like you've signed it or you've written a note in it, or you can customize it in so many ways. Like we were talking earlier about just changing the cover of it. And so at the conference I was just at, it was mostly romance writers, so they were very ebook heavy, but they're like, people want those special editions, and it can make just a more special feel, more unique, a more bespoke. And then with print on demand, the great thing about it is that you don't have to pay a lot of overhead or invest a ton to make a print copy. Once you have created it and published it, and you've got 1 or 2 proof copies and they look good, then it's just available for sale forever. You don't have to store that inventory. As we talked about, having a couple on hand is always a good idea, but you don't have to think, I have to buy 500 books to make it worth my while, and then I have to sell them. You can make one and just let it live on your website, and then you'll let the sales come in, around the clock, hopefully.
Yeah. So Tara has a question. Is it better to do matte or gloss for paperback?
I love a matte cover. I'm such a fan of it. I like how it feels. I just think that that's better for me. But again, I would just say genre expectations. So what's going to make sense for you? What do the other books look like? Doing matte might make you stand out because everything else you've seen is gloss. Or based on the cover art, doing gloss might look better. It might make it pop a little bit more. So I would just recommend taking a look, but also you can just order one of each and let your readers decide. Say, hey, here's the matte, here's the gloss. What do you guys like? Or make them both available with all of these matte covers. You know what, Eva, I will say one thing I don't love about matte covers. Whenever I go to conferences, my hands get kind of clammy when you're just like talking and blah, blah, blah. And so I hate when I'm like, matte covers are great. And then there's a gross handprint like on it. So that's also a consideration. Yeah, those are all true. These things are all true. So thinking about form or function, like when people want to make a photo book and you say, well, do you want it to lay flat or a cookbook? Do you want it to open up and lay flat? Or do you just want the aesthetic? Those can be two different options. So
Mhm.
just again, thinking about your goals and what do you want this to be a design piece or a piece of art? Or do you want the spine to get cracked and do you want people to get into it and really use it every day? So thinking about those things can help answer those questions as well.
Yeah. Now, what about finances? Does the author make more money on an ebook or a print book?
Well, it depends. I mean, again, and it's not a cop out to say that, but it can depend on how you want to sell it. So through Lulu's bookstore, we do an 80-20 split for print books. So if you sell through our Lulu.com bookstore, so that means you get 80% of the revenue and Lulu gets 20. For ebooks, it's 90-10. And you can also make ebooks available for free. So if you are doing free ebooks, then it won't matter. You're not really making money anyway. But if you are looking to make money and your audience is mostly buying ebooks, that revenue split of 90-10 might be more appealing to you. So it depends on how you're using them. I mean, print margins, you can usually make a little bit more because you're selling a physical product. But again, it depends on the price point your audience is used to. And if they're only consuming ebooks, then maybe an
Right.
ebook, but then maybe a special edition can be helpful.
So Tara wants to continue on the price discussion. So what price do you
Yeah.
recommend debut authors sell their ebooks and paperbacks to begin with?
We see a lot of people going when you're just coming out of the gate doing free because you want to get those readers and giving your work away for free. We see obviously 99 cents is a very popular price point, 4.99, things like this. So depending on what your genre is, you can just take a look on Lulu's bookstore, look on Amazon's bookstore, look at what's on the bestsellers list. And I know that different websites will do different promos for ebooks. So look around. That would be my advice is just take a look and see authors that you aspire to be and authors that are similar to yours. What are they selling at? And are they actually selling? Are people comfortable with that price point? Because ebooks can be kind of tricky. I think a lot of readers are trained to not spend much on ebooks. So having a sort of lower price point might help you kind of crack into that and get that audience you're looking for.
Yeah, that's interesting. Dan, I've never heard of Lulu before, but it looks like a great resource.
Oh,
It is a great
great. Yeah.
resource.
Yeah,
This is
check us
like,
out. Well, I'm so glad I put the here's what we do in the beginning because, but yeah, we're print on demand self-publishing. There are no minimums or maximums for Lulu. So I always like to tell people it's very low risk, high reward. You can create an account for free. If you have files in your computer that match our trim sizes, upload them, buy a copy, and see if I know what I'm talking about.
so one more question I just want to go back to on pricing. Um, can you do like a 2 week sale, or what if you want to use BookBub and you actually get on BookBub and do their sale? They're quite specific of your sale will be this date to that date. Can you do that through Lulu?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, whether you're selling through the Lulu bookstore or your own website through Lulu Direct, you can set the price. It's whatever you want it to be. If you're selling on your own website, you can have it, you can give the book away for free. You can sell it for whatever you want. If you're selling through the Lulu.com bookstore, you can't drop the price lower than the manufacturing cost. So that's one thing to consider, but you can change the price as often as you need to, whatever makes sense for you.
Okay, that's great. So two more. One I'll just answer. Yes, Tara, they're a competitor to Draft to Digital.
Yes.
And then does Lulu offer split payments for co-authors?
We do, and thank you for bringing that up. So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I was joined in one slide by that handsome bulldog named Ruben. And so a lot of times around the holidays, we see folks that will make calendars. Pet calendars are so popular, but any kind of calendars are great end of year gifts. And a lot of those proceeds will go to charity. And so you just need to set up the charity as the payee or the second payee. When you go through Lulu's publishing platform and you come to the payee part, you just set what percentage you want them to get. So if it's 100%, you can do that. If it's 50-50 because you're working with a co-author, you can set that up as well. So you can absolutely do that. Yes.
Yeah, and it might seem like a small thing, but Lucy and I co-author together, and we've got 3 books out now, and to have to split payments is really difficult to keep on top of. So that's a really great question, Roland.
Yeah. Thank you, Roland.
All right, we're 3 minutes to go. Thank you for bringing Chelsea.
Thanks for
I
having
got the
me.
thank you for that.
Yeah. I'll be here anytime. It's a great group. So thank you for having me. I hope it was helpful. And I'll drop my email in the chat one more time. If you have any questions, I know that sometimes when I present, it's like drinking from a firing hose, and I just get so excited. So I apologize for that. But if you have questions as the day goes on, as the week goes on, I'm always happy to help.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chelsea, and thank you everybody who was here today. I hope you learned lots of great stuff, and we will do the recording, so don't panic. If you didn't take it all in, you can actually rewatch it, so it'll be good.
That half speed, I think, would be
At
helpful.
half speed, just slow her down.
Yes.
All right, thanks everybody.